What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official podcast for console creatures. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvar, and alongside me, as always, my good pal Bobby. How the heck are you today?
I'm doing a little, doing well, a little bit of technical issue, trying to get the right angle to get my slim
Okay,
face on, but
there you
I'm
go.
good. What about
Looking
you?
great, looking great. I'm good. I'm back after what feels like another long hiatus of
A whole
traveling,
month
and
away, it feels like, I swear.
yeah, it really does feel that way. Time has been passing
Yeah,
me by super quickly. I mean, yeah, this is the first week where I just am hunkered down at home. I have no travel plans. I have nothing big going on. This is the first of the year, and we're recording this the first month of March, and
that's insane.
it's crazy to me. But I'm happy to be here because for the first time, coinciding with all the travel, I hadn't been playing a lot of video games, so I was like, you know what, like I'm not too upset that I'm missing out because I'm not talking about anything. I got nothing going on, but this is going to be a fun episode because you got a big game you want to talk about. We both got another big game we want to talk about. So I think it's time. I think it's time back in the saddle for me.
It's
Excited
time.
to be here. But I'll kick it off to you first because I want to hear about Split Fiction, the latest from Joseph Ferris. I mean, I'm a huge fan of It Takes Two, A Way Out. I want to hear about Split Fiction.
Yeah, so let's start with this.
Yeah.
Joseph Ferris is like a messiah for the industry and what he's doing.
Yeah.
And if it feels like hyperbole, play Split Fiction and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because some of the stuff that Split Fiction does is just like it is mind blowing. So I mean, if you've never played a Hazelight game, they're specifically tailored to co-op experiences.
Hmm.
You need a friend, you need to play with somebody online or whatever. But Split Fiction is easily their biggest game. It's their most ambitious. I feel like it is for all matters speaking, it is his magnum opus so far. Like it is his best
Yeah.
game. I just like I can't believe this exists. I mean, I know we've seen previews, we've seen trailers and stuff, and we're like, well, yeah, okay. But when you get into it and you start playing it, it's like, holy shit, how is this possible? And starting with that notion, it's just like I feel like if this was any other platform, any generation, I don't think it would work. We're finally at that stage where some of the stuff that I was seeing in the game, which I can talk about later, it's only possible today on today's consoles, and it's just like this game that I needed right now. It's like a warm hug to wind down the winter. It's welcoming us to spring. It's just this generational game that I feel is going to really set the tone for I feel what I believe is what gamers are going to want, or players, whatever you want to call them. We don't talk about gamers here, players. But yeah, let's start from the top. So I mean, The Fiction's a co-op game. Obviously, you play as Zoe or Mio. These two writers who are just they're aspiring to become paid writers. You know, they want to be career writers, and they get recruited to join Raider Publishing to basically use this technology. And I don't want to spoil a lot because it really ties into the story. But they get recruited to use this technology. Think of the Animus and it kind of how it uses ideas to come to life.
Sure. Yep.
So what ends up happening is that they kind of discover that this company is not as good as it seems. It's too good to be true. And what's happening is that the machine is stealing their ideas and wiping their memories. So everyone that signs up for this program basically loses everything they've ever thought of creatively, and it's signed away to Raider Publishing, and then they use those ideas to serve as their own. And where the gameplay comes in is these two figure this out beforehand, and one of them backs out, and then they kind of glitch into one machine. So every pod has one person, and it replicates their ideas. But in this case, the idea of Split Fiction is two people, one pod. So that's where you see the fantasy stuff.
I see. Okay.
And that's where you have both characters. So one character is a fantasy writer, the other one's a sci-fi writers, and that's where the cool stuff starts coming in. So you have obviously co-op. Both characters control it a bit differently, so you're jumping back and forth between a fantasy level and then a sci-fi level, and sometimes you're jumping back and forth between them at the same time, which is like probably the coolest thing that I feel like this game does. Until the end, which it really amps it up to like an 11 on stuff that I didn't think was possible, but the gameplay like really harnesses today's technology to show that there's some really cool ideas out there if you give people the freedom to create games instead of pushing out IPs that are just I'm not gonna name obviously names, but Joseph Ferris has the knowledge from his movie directing time to really
Mhm.
is to do something really cool. And quite frankly, I think this is probably one of my favorite games this year, if not probably my favorite game so far. And I'm saying this as someone who loves Avowed. That was probably my game of the year so far. But
Sure.
after coming off this, it's like I don't know. As much as I love Avowed, what Split Fiction does is it really sets the ante for the rest of 2025.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, it's coming off of big shoes to fill, right? Hazelight is coming off of winning Game of the Year with It Takes Two, and then I thought it was very spectacular
Yep.
that we were sitting at the Game Awards watching it, and all of a sudden, yeah, we get this trailer, and then boom.
Yep.
Oh, you can play it in 4 months later. I love that kind of turnout,
Yep.
especially for a studio that can come out and be super confident and say, "No, you guys are going to be playing this in a couple
Yep.
months. Here's a great trailer, locked and loaded for you guys." So I'm really happy with the lead into this game and everything that's preceded this moment and getting this game out, because it's out in a few days. I want to go back to something that I think that you've been kind of beating around the bush on, is this kind of like performance. I want to know more about this, or how it's kind of taking advantage of current gen hardware and stuff like that. Is this kind of like a rift apart kind of situation where you're like, oh, we needed to get to the PlayStation 5 in order to capture this moment, or the Horus fight in the Forbidden West DLC,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, you can't physically do this without this kind of power. I'm
Yeah.
curious what your perspective is.
I feel like it's both, but it leans towards more Rift Apart and
Mm,
how it's jumping between realms and all this
got it.
stuff. But like what I am more insinuating is just like the last hour is where it really shines to show you like, whoa, this is possible. This is what's capable these days. But
Mm,
throughout the game, like you're obviously seeing stuff like that where you're jumping between realms and
yep.
stuff. It's just at the fidelity you're doing it, at what's happening on screen, what you're doing, all of it's coming together. It feels like an elevated version of Rift Apart in all the best ways. I feel you're jumping literally between these massive worlds, and it's like, how is this happening? Like, what are they doing behind the scenes to get this to work so well? Because I had absolutely no issues. There was zero bugs. There was zero slowdown. I had a smooth frame rate. Um, it was pretty forgiving with save points. So like I was worried, I would like you're playing with your partner and you would lose, you would fall, you would die, and then I thought maybe there'd be like a time where you'd have to sit there and wait, but no, it was just like that. It snapped back to where you were, just continued on. So like there was nothing barring you from having a good time. It was just here's the game, go out and have fun, and that is like the crux of this game. It's just fun, and that's how I can best describe it. It's just it's like finding a big Easter basket on Easter, and you're finding all these little treats that you're ready to eat after
Yeah.
dinner. It's like that's what you're getting. You're getting this big basket of treats, and you're finding some really cool stuff every time. So you're digging through the basket, and you're finding like a little thing you forgot about that you used to like, or you go through this corner, and you're like, oh, I like this chocolate a lot, and then you find like a Sour Patch Kid, and you're like, this is that good. I'm craving right now, and you get little bits of everything at every interval in this game. And it's just it blows my mind that this is from Hazelight. This is a smaller studio. Like they clearly have really good leadership, and
Sure.
it shows. But yeah, I mean, there's not only that, and then there's a lot of really cool. And it's going back to Easter eggs. There's lots of really cool Easter eggs that you'll find. There is literally references to Halo. There's references to Dark Souls. There's literally an Assassin's Creed reference. Like there's
I
so
love
many cool
that.
things. You're like, oh my god. And they spin it just enough where it's like this is smart. It's so smartly
Oh,
implemented.
cool.
It's so natural. You're not just like, oh, here's a little Easter egg. It's like you get through this level, you do something, and it ties into that game you're referencing.
Cool. I love that.
And yeah, I mean, it's just there's no filler. It's just consistently you're moving between like the Neon Revenge world, which is like the cyber level, and you're you could be using katana and you're slicing enemies while I have an electric whip and I'm like grabbing stuff and throwing it at you and you're slicing it to blow stuff up.
Mhm.
Or we're working together through like flying airships where you're jumping to each one and I'm throwing stuff at you to get you further down the line, or you're slicing down bridges so I can get to the other side to get to this next point that I need to grab to throw something to you to get to further down, and it just keeps going. Like it's just this momentum building, like seamless transition between levels, and it's just like it's insane what you're doing in this game because it never stops. It's never slow. And it's like full pedal to the metal, and you're basically going 0 to 100 the entire time.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about, and this is something that has far exceeded, the previous games from Hazelight, and I don't want to go too into it because I don't want to be spoiled myself or provide spoilers for anyone listening. But what's the temperature check on these mini games? Are there mini games like there was in A Way Out and It Takes Two? Like, what are we dealing with here in the levels?
So there aren't necessarily mini games. There are the side stories which have been covered in previews, and those are really cool. I think there's about a dozen of them that you encounter between every level, but they're really cool. So like you might be in a fantasy world, and you might be zapped into a world where you play as like a farting pig, or you are like Mr. Ham, the Toy Story thing where he does, Mr. Slinky, where he's
Slinky,
like
yeah.
Slinky dog. You become like a dog like that, or I think it's a pig. It's one or the other, but like you're one of you, so you'd be the farting pig and I'd be the slinky dog, and then I would like extend myself for you to climb up to something, and then you'd be farting to get to a balloon up in the air to push something forward for me. And then there's another level. Honestly, there's some really cool. I don't even want to describe it later because there's some stuff later on that's really cool. But there's one thing I mentioned in my review. It's like a Mass Effect coded level. It's so cool. It's like mind blowing how it feels like it's something it feels like a mission in Mass Effect, but I think my character is always like the sci-fi writer. So she had this idea of like you're on this planet and the sun's dying, and you have to get out of the base as fast as you can with your partner, and you guys are working together to get through there. But as the planet's dying, you have to like rhythmically time your movements to the sun because it keeps exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're in the music's straight out of Mass Effect. You're having this discussion with this character, and you're just like, how is this happening right now? Like, how is this the same game I was just playing where I was just a farting pig?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like it's just so like the tone is just the way the tone shifts so frequently. It's like this is what I feel like a lot of games are missing because it doesn't have the consistency of other games. Like it always breaks. It's like here's a break here. You're going to do like I said, you're one level like you're like you could be a monkey and I could be a bird, and then the next level, like I said, you're racing on a cyberpunk bike doing like the Akira slide. Like it just there's no like tonal coherence, or it just jumps around everywhere, but it works. And it's just like this is not something I feel like any studio could do. This is strictly a Hazelight game. Like it just comes together in a way that it has to be done by Hazelight. No other studio could deliver this kind of game. It's just so outlandish. It's so egregious to what we expect from games. It's just it goes against the trends in every way, in all the best ways.
Well, I that's the thing I love about this studio is the fact that it seems like they have the autonomy and the freedom to just do whatever they want. I think, pragmatically, it's well deserved after winning Game of the Year and having so many accolades, even in the past, but to get here and just say, okay, we're going to approach another 2-player co-op game. It's going to be, balls to the walls. It's going to be full of creativity, a whole new direction for something that you can play with someone else. And I feel like as so many other studios out there, they would struggle with coming up with another game that deals with, playing with another person and having 2 different perspectives. How do you get creative with that? So to get here and have Split Fiction be something brand new, do new things, and not kind of like retread old territory, it's kind of exciting.
That's the thing. And it's just like, it takes two to like the 10th degree. Like it obviously is kind of similar in some ways, but for all the things that it does similarly, it does 1,000 things that are so different. It's like, whoa,
Sure.
how did they do this? Like, what was the turnaround time? I think It Takes Two was 3 years ago. In 3 years, they've created something that's just so crazy. It's just it blows my mind that this is what they're outputting every couple of years. There's something so unique in the market that it's not AAA, it's not indie. It's just kind of in the sweet spot where it's clearly just like it serves everybody. Like it's attractive to any person of any age, and you can play with anybody. It's not like there's no there's no boundaries, there's no hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
You pick who you want to play with, and you play this, and you'll feel good. Like that's what this game does. Like it's just a morphine shot. It just jolts you up. Like it's so cool.
Just a correction. I do want to point out 2021, which makes no sense in my head that's when that game came out.
Yeah, see, like that's a long time ago.
It is a long time, but in my head, I was like, no, we just played it like a couple of years ago. That's when it came out. That makes no sense.
4 years. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I mean, even in 4 years, like what I'm playing is just like it's just I don't want to part ways with it. Like I finished the game. I cleared in about 16 hours.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
it's a little bit longer, I feel, than It Takes Two. Depending who you ask, you might see some reviews saying it does drag on in certain parts, but
okay,
it's never.
It Takes Two on how long to beat. It says about 14 hours, so no, it's not.
So it's on par, maybe a couple hours more. But like it's never. And the thing is, like for me, it was never the gameplay that dragged on. I obviously did notice that some cutscenes were a little bit longer, but they weren't unnecessary. Like they were like purposely put where they were to expand on these characters. And I obviously don't want to go into spoilers because the story is actually really cool. It seems like it's just like a generic like a sci-fi story, but no, it's actually really touching. It touched on a lot of really cool relationships and like a lot of subjects, and it really sees it through to the end, and it gives something really poignant, and it finished on such a high note that I feel like if they were to do a sequel, they could do it. But I mean, I hope they don't, because I would love to see what comes next after this game.
Of course, yeah. I mean, hopefully it's all bigger and better, but also within the scope that they want to keep it. I hope that it doesn't get to a point where they're expected to make, a 30-hour game and kind of change everything that we know them to be.
I mean, given who Ferris is, I feel like he's the one calling the shots. So he kind of tells like EA, no, we're doing it my way, or like we're out. And rightfully so. Like having that control over your studio is kind of what I feel like in most cases lets you make the games you want to make. So you're able to make the game that you will find success in. And I mean, we've seen that with like BioWare, and we've seen that with other studios. Like they had a lot of oversight from EA, and look what happened to their games. Like they might have reviewed well, but like they were cleaning out the games that they wanted to make. And I feel that's kind of what I'm seeing. But I feel like this Split Fiction, what we got is wholly what Joseph Fares envisioned, and it's like it is probably his best game so far. As much as I like It Takes Two, as much as I like Brothers, this is like their best game by far. Like it's perfect. I have zero complaints about it. I couldn't even tell you one thing I didn't like about it, just because it was every time I booted up, it was just, whoa, okay, let's do this. We're gonna get to this next section.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to that, I mean, everyone playing it or thinking about playing it, they might see, well, there's only two kinds of, there's sci-fi and there's fantasy, but like you're doing something different in those worlds every time, because you're playing as these two writers. It's not just your sci-fi, your fantasy. It's, well, I wrote this story about when I was 12 years old, and there's one where you're playing as like a fairy, or you're playing as like a fox, and the next one you're doing, like I said, you're controlling the dragon. In the previews, there's one where you're playing as, you have two dragons. One's able to fly to get you through a level. The other one rolls and breaks down doors. And conversely, you have the sci-fi stuff where you're playing, like I said, with a katana and the whip, and then another one you're doing a little contra level as you're fighting through like this neo-dystopian cyberpunk world, and you're basically Contra / Mega Man, and you even look the part, and you're
Oh, that's cool.
side scrolling, and then you're doing a top down, and it just shifts genres all the time. And it's like, how is this possible?
That's so
And
cool.
it's just like, it just comes when you never expect it, because you just think it's, well, we're going back to this world, but no, accidentally, well, no, we're dealing with this kind of thing, and you have to fight these mechs, and now you have to basically swap your perspective, and you got to swap your weapon, and it always shifts. When you feel you're about to get bored, it changes it up at the most opportune time, and that's what this game does really spectacular. It's just, it always shifts things to keep you engaged, and it's just like I said, for 16 hours, like it just kept me going. I was like, okay, well, this is great. And normally I'm someone who likes to play my games and watch something so I can just kind of catch up on my television or whatever.
Yeah.
For the full 16 hours, I was glued to the screen. I was basically just headphones on, playing this game, and that was it. I was like, this is it. I'm so happy about this game.
Cool.
Great. Yeah. And then the only, to circle back to what I said, the only thing I think might deter a lot of people is if you don't find the right person to play with.
Of course, that's with any of these games, though.
And that's probably the biggest hurdle you'll likely find. I was lucky to play with George Yang, friend of the show, so like we played together.
Yeah.
We did have a couple issues. I mean, obviously, we ran into a couple issues where we just were playing. Our timing, like we had to get. There's a lot of things you have to time. Our jumps, or we have to time climbing things. But that was the only issue. Like once we got that rhythm down, it was like, okay, if this was anybody else, or or if you're playing with like a partner who doesn't play games too often, you have to have patience. But I mean, we were pretty in sync with what we were doing, and then it really helped just make the experience a lot smoother. It was the biggest issue I was worrying going in. Is like, who am I going to play with? But
right.
Luckily, there was some support for that, and I found Georgia playing, and I was like, okay, done. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for him, I feel like I probably would have had a worse time.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it all does come down to whether or not you're having fun playing with the other person. I think that's something to consider for anyone that is, wanting to play Split Fiction, is, having someone. And thankfully, they're doing the exact same thing that they've done in the past, where you have the friend code, so to speak. So all you need to do is buy one copy, and
crossplay now.
And crossplay, that's huge.
Which is huge, because honestly, as long as you have their EA friend code, you can basically play with PC, Xbox, whatever it's on, right? And like that's a big thing, right? And It Takes Two sold 23 million copies, so like if this game even sells close to that, I mean, like that's a lot of people you can play with. So I mean, yeah, I mean, Split Fiction does a lot of things right. It's very pro-consumer. It really wants you to play their game. I mean, like you said, the friend code is really cool. Like splitting one copy with one friend. I mean, like there's no game out there that does that. You can basically spend the same you would on like a combo McDonald's, and you have this game to play, and it's worth the investment. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like we're gonna give it a 9 out of 10 for the site. But like honestly, support this studio. Like just go give it a second over. Think about it. If you want to wait for a demo, I wouldn't, because like you're getting a really cool experience day one. It's a good way to get people together to play together, and like it just brings people together. Like I left feeling a little bit closer to George. Like we spent all this time together. Like it's a good team building exercise playing Split Fiction, I feel.
I love it. Any other thoughts, comments on Split Fiction?
No, I mean everything. I have nothing bad to say about this game. Check out the review. Honestly, I wrote a lot. I actually took a lot out because it was spoiler heavy, and I honestly don't want to spoil anything, because everything this game does, it's worth finding out yourself. Any of the Easter eggs are cool, but like really, that's like the tip of the iceberg of what you're gonna find in this game. That's it. Just have patience, and like I said, find the right person. You're gonna have the time of your life with this game.
Awesome. Yeah, it comes out on March 6th, so a few days from the time we're putting this out on all feeds. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to playing it, and hopefully a lot of people out there are as well. And hopefully it's kind of a unanimous thing that, we were already talking about another game of the year front runner.
Yeah.
Starting the year off very strong, it seems.
Yeah, so very strong. If you're a trophy hunter, don't be scared. I actually went almost the entire game without getting one trophy, and then
Oh
I
my
actually
God, that would
just
terrify me.
I was terrified because we're like, where are the trophy? Where is nothing popping up? But they're not traditional trophies. Like, just to close this discussion, the trophies will mostly pop towards the end, and you have to complete certain things. So like, one was like, you have to, like, as you're dragging, like, you have to, go find some fruit, you have to eat it off the tree, and that was when I was like, okay, I'm getting trophies. It's not bugged. It's nothing.
Okay.
Like, the trophy list is pretty straightforward. I think you could do it in 2 playthroughs for sure, but it's pretty easy. Like, it's nothing difficult. It's just, things you would naturally do. Like, there's one where you have to complete all, like, the side stories. There are these little conversations you could have. So every level has got like a bench you sit on. You just talk with Zoe or Mio, and they talk to each other, and they just kind of build a relationship. And then you just kind of sit there and wait with the other person until they're done, and you get up and you move. So it's just small stuff, but like, yeah, don't be scared. Like I said, once the first trophy pops, you're like, okay, it's all good.
Cool. Okay, good, because that would worry me.
I was worried. Trust me, I
scared.
was super worried. I was like, why am I not getting, like, this chapter's done? But then they don't do that.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, it's a weird trophy list, but like, it makes sense once you see it. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Cool. Well, the other big game we're kind of talking about is Monster Hunter Wilds. We've both been playing it. I think I'm around 10, 11 hours. How far deep are you?
I'm about the same because
Okay.
I didn't cover the review. So Matt covered it, his video review, his written review, and the podcast are up with Hayes Madsen and Verendir from, they're just freelancers, but yeah, they joined.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Matt, and yeah, I'm about, like I said, about the same. I think I'm monster rank. I think I'm like level rank 10, 11.
Jesus.
Yeah. I started on one platform, and then I got to a point where I'm like, I'd rather just play this on PlayStation. So I have it now on PlayStation, and I'm restarting there. But I basically mained the Insect Glaive. I was going hard on that weapon. I love the Insect Glaive, and then now I'm starting it just with a greatsword just to see. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about your experience, because you and I went to SGF. I think we both saw that. We had that same presentation.
Yep.
We went on a podcast to talk about it, and you weren't sold on it. But
no, I was sold on the possibilities of it. Well, I say that because I don't like Monster Hunter. I've always, even with Worlds, I jumped in, played 2 hours. I was like, nothing's clicking here. I'm just not really understanding what the hype is. Yeah. Like I understand that it's an impressive feat. I think that there's a lot of really fine intricacies in terms of the gameplay and stuff. But like, for me, I was like, it's not doing it for me. And I really did feel that exact same way going into Wilds, where the first night did the tutorial. I was like, I mean, okay, it plays well. I started out with the dual blades, created my custom character, looked great. I love the amount of like customization options and stuff like that. All really great stuff, like from an objective standpoint. But then, the second night I started going through, hunting some monsters as one does, and it's still not clicking for me. I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions. And then it was the third night, and I thought I got, progressively like further in to the story, further into the world.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably like the fourth or fifth monster that I was hunting. I was like, oh, I understand the gameplay loop. I kind of now understand going out, defeating these monsters, going back to the camp, building out your armor, building out new weapons and stuff like that. So it all kind of clicked. And then I was like, perfect. Now, 4 or 5 days, nights of playing later.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the tail end of chapter 2, maybe the start of chapter 3. And I'm having a good time. I just don't know, once I get towards the end and I roll credits, am I going to stick with it? And am I going to like start, deep diving into the end game content and stuff like that? Really try to, min max stats and armor sets and go out to explore and do all these like side options. I don't know if it has me that engaged, but just in terms of going from like one monster to the next I feel like it's very accessible. I think that the dual blades is super fun and fluid and very quick and snappy little weapon to use. I think I tested out the great sword. I was like, no, this moves way too slowly. I can't do this. I need something a
It
little
moves
faster. So
slowly, but it's super powerful. Like
of
that's kind of
course,
where I was at. Like, I mean, I think even the starting weapon was like 500 attack from the start. But I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I'm just used to it. I've always played
yeah,
with the great sword. But like the benefit of Wild is now you have option of two weapons, right? So you could technically do dual swords, and then you could do like the insect glaive. Like that's probably the sweet middle spot for you. I'd feel.
See, it's so funny because I love the dual blades so much. I think they're badass. I love the demon mode.
Yeah, so good.
I've never pressed the button to use my secondary because I'm like, this is just so rewarding. The
Yeah.
animations, the fluidness, the pacing of attacks and stuff like that. I love it so much that I'm like, I just don't care about engaging with any other weapon set. And maybe that's to a detriment. Maybe I'm not fully experiencing what the game has to offer. But
Yeah.
as far as someone who's still trying to acclimate and get my feet wet in this world, I think that for right now it's serving me well. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. A lot of stuff that the game offers is really tangential and kind of toss away for me. Like the story is complete nonsense in
Oh
my
no, like
opinion.
you don't play these games for story.
No, and I didn't think so either.
But to the point, I mean, it is the best Monster Hunter story I've experienced so far. And
Okay,
I played them for a while. Like I mean,
sure,
they actually did put some effort into it, and I understand why. I mean, if you're like someone who's listening, you're not familiar with the series. These games have always been about the monsters, about
of course.
preparing. It's a trial and error game. Like you're basically going out, you're dying, you're coming back, you're trying to figure out what works.
Yep.
In Wild, it's a lot more streamlined. It's catered to a lot like a global audience now, so you're not getting the same level of difficulty as you would when say like Ultimate Generations, which is like one of the tougher ones, or even further back. So like you're getting a streamlined version of Monster Hunter, which I don't know if it's good or bad yet, but like I think it's better for like I said, the general audience. So like it isn't what like a hardcore Monster Hunter fan would want, but I mean, someone like you or like even Matt, I feel like that's probably like the middle ground for everybody. It's tough enough for you, but like maybe not something for someone who's played like the last like 10 games. But that's fine. It works for what it is. I feel like Capcom has the ability to add monsters that are to the task, right? Like if you want really tough monsters, you could add them in later. And I feel, and that's what the end game is going to offer, right? You're going to have like really strong monsters. You're going to have some really cool armors and weapons, and it's just difficulty. It's just modifying the difficulty for the end game now. Like I feel like the base game is perfect for today, but like if you want people to come back, more specifically veterans, add in some like sponges into the game. Let them just absorb damage, and you just let them fight and let them, let these players get what they want. But I mean, it's the most inclusive Monster Hunter in years, and I feel like that's a really cool thing. But I mean, to each their own, right? Some people don't like it. I mean, I've seen people online saying this is a cop out for the series, but I feel like it's been good. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's posting pictures. Everyone's posting video. It's like I love seeing that.
No, I do too, and especially for someone who, again, it hasn't really put a lot of time into the series or found that it clicked for me in any way. It does make me feel better and makes me feel way more excited seeing everyone engage with this game.
Yeah.
And I think it does go to the point where it is so streamlined, where getting over those first couple hours, I was like, okay, I really am kind of locked in on just the fundamentals here. But I think that there's also somewhat of a detriment to the gameplay as well, being so streamlined, where, you're talking about going up against some of these monsters. Maybe it's because I'm still relatively early in. I think I'm only like halfway through the game, just judging by the mission list and stuff like that. But at no point do I feel like the armor sets that I'm looking at crafting and stuff, like they're going through, fire resistance and stuff like that. At no point do I feel the game is challenging me that much that I feel like I have to obsess over those stats. I'm kind of just looking at the base. Does this armor give me a better fundamental, like, base, better defense, or does this weapon look is way more powerful than the other, just based on, that one block stat alone? So I feel like maybe by streamlining it, it kind of removes that, I don't know, onus to
the barrier.
The barrier of entry, but at the same time, it kind of gets rid of those deeper stats, I guess. Yeah.
And and like I said, and generally when this happens, I just like to remind people, like, if you want that, like, there are those games that are still available. Like, you're not like losing out. You still have something to go back to. But like, this is a good way to get more people on board, and then the next game they can be like, well, we got all we have this massive base now, so like maybe we can tweak it a little bit so it's a little bit harder. It's possible, right? Like, now you have, let's say, 6 million people that love Monster Hunter Wilds. You're gonna have more people coming back to it. Like, that's a lot of people that are gonna come back, and they're like, well, let's up the ante a little bit. Let's make it a little more difficult. And it comes down to, like, I feel like it's really cool seeing, like I said, I'm more interested in seeing the feedback, and everyone's saying it's good. My biggest issue with it so far is just the menus are ass. I hate the menus. Like, they they're a mess. Like, it's hard to navigate things, to find things, and like, why is the square button? Why am I pressing square in battle when I feel like that should be like the button to attack? Where where it's bringing up the binoculars or the fishing rod, or I'm trying to heal, and I'm trying to like pull a potion out, but it's using my mega potions, and it's like, I don't want that. I want to use just a potion. Or like, just small things. It's like, I want to basically, I want to launch a flare, but it's not letting me. So it's like it's not intuitive, and I feel like that's a big issue.
I completely agree, and I thought maybe coming into this, that was just kind of something, to kind of expect, because I don't really have all that much to compare it to. But I do agree. The menus are kind of obtuse. I really do get frustrated with the radial wheel, where like you have to like flick the right analog stick to activate, whether you're catching your fishing rod, or you're catching net, or whatever. It's super, super frustrating, because half the time I feel like it doesn't even work properly. Like, I'm just sitting there like trying to use the whetstone to shave off my to repair my sword and stuff like that. I feel like that's the strangest or most frustrating part is all the menus. The fact that, like, you can't use a potion without having to put your weapon away and then slowly drink your potion and then take your weapon back out. It's like, I want to get into the combat, because the combat's super fun. Like, it's super rewarding, so much fun.
That's the thing. Like, you have this amazing combat, and like, it's so much fun, but then you have an issue where you get hit by like a tail, and you have to heal, but you have to like step back, and you literally have to spend like a couple minutes just to get regrouped and back into the fray. And it's like, well, the momentum's gone. Like, I don't want that. Like, why can't I like stab the monster and then pull a potion out with one hand and drink while I'm doing it? But like, I'm losing stamina at the same time. That would have been my trade-off.
Right. Yes.
You have the wounds, you can stab them, and then you're on them. So it's like, why can't I heal during that time?
True. Yeah.
There's like these little things, like, I feel like could have streamlined the gameplay in a better way. Like, obviously the monsters are there. They've always been there, but like, the stuff that they streamlined was not the right stuff, I feel. And that's kind of the detriment to the series. Like, now you're a broader audience, but the things that make Monster Hunter were the trial and error. Like you said, like, you didn't like the minute stuff, but like, that's what made this game so much fun. It was like learning the patterns, learning what works, what weapons work, what armor you need, farming for all the materials you need. And it's like, that's still there, but it's not as intuitive as it was before, I feel.
No,
But yeah,
I completely understand. I love the perspective from someone who's coming from Monster Hunter, because for me, I just didn't know if this was something that everyone kind of just accepted, and maybe I was in the wrong of like, oh yeah, these menus are super obtuse, or why
no,
is
no,
certain
no.
things slow, but then other things are super fast and fluid. I'm kind of trying to just wrap my head around everything. But there's a lot to really love about this game.
That's the thing. It comes down to is just like for all the things I feel like it does wrong, it does 6 or 7 things right to
Yeah.
just counter it. It's like, okay, well, I can put up with it. I know I just lost a couple emotions, but whatever, it's fine.
That's it. Yeah. Well, the other thing that I'm not I'm impressed by, but at the same time not impressed by, is the scale and the openness of it. I love the open world. I think it's super fun to navigate toward. You jump on your, what is this, secret? Is that how you pronounce it?
I call it secret. Yeah,
Secret, yeah. You jump on that, you're off to the races. I love the fact that you can kind of just auto run and it just takes you there. It's super
that
fun.
that's a cool thing. Like I know a lot of people don't like
I love
that
it.
automated stuff, but like it takes away the busy work of like exploring, and I don't care for that stuff. So
Right.
yeah, automated for me. I can just do my own thing. I can prepare for the hunt because that's basically what
Exactly.
I do, right?
Yeah, and I love like gathering materials and stuff like that, cooking and all that stuff. I think it's super fun and rewarding. But when you get to cutscenes, I feel like the game just feels like there's an art style to it that I both appreciate, but at the same time, there's just something that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
And it feels like there's nothing that's quite vibrant enough about this game. They use colors, but everything feels super
dull.
muted in a way and dull. Like it's just not appealing to look at, in my opinion. And
Uh,
this is, I mean, maybe it's just the fact that you and I both play on OLED TVs where color really pops off the screen.
yeah.
Those displays are made for high contrasting colors. Here, everything kind of just feels like it's just in the middle, and it just does not really do it for me.
And I think it is the screen because, like we said, like that screen is like the best, right? But I found the same was kind of this issue with Monster Hunter Rise. Like a lot of the maps were dull, and I think it's just this. It seems to be just like the series. Like I've noticed in the last couple of games, and I just can't remember World. I feel like World was a little bit the similar, but like Rise, I noticed it for sure because I replayed that recently. But like Rise was the same thing. Like it was just dull. I think there were even mods you could install on PC to make it more colorful. So I mean, I think it's a byproduct of the series, which sucks, right? Because like honestly, this is such a cool idea. Like why isn't there more color? Like there should be just color everywhere. Like Horizon Forbidden West color. Like that was one of the cooler overworlds. Like can you imagine having that world just with Monster Hunter? Like I feel like that would have been probably the ideal world scenario, right? But it happens. I mean, maybe in the future, maybe in an expansion, they'll add something. But like, Wilds is very dull, which is super disappointing.
Yeah. But it's something that I'm, again, willing to look over because of the things that they do
Oh,
so
it's just
well.
so fun. It's so
Uh,
fun. That's the thing comes down to, right? If your gameplay is fun, the rest I can put up with.
Exactly. The other thing that I really love, and this is something that they kind of took from Dragon's Dogma, is like emergent events. The fact that you're fighting one monster, all of a sudden, boom, another one just comes into crashes the
I
battlefield,
love
and
that.
you're like, what is happening? Or you might be fighting like a very singular monster, like this is the fight, this is what drives the campaign and everything, and then yeah, all of a sudden it runs away and you're kind of chasing it through the map, and then all of a sudden you can get distracted by this one thing, and like it I think it's really cool in creating this kind of world to exist and giving you opportunities to get distracted without it feeling too much of a distraction in and of itself. You're fighting smaller monsters, and then you can go back to the main one that you and your party
Yeah,
playing up against.
yeah. And another thing that I noticed that I feel like Monster Hunter does really well is when you find people to play with that are good. Like it's so much fun. So I don't know if you've had that opportunity yet, but like I mean, I had one really cool session where it was just like everyone was a skilled hunter and like they were really good at what they did, and it was just like whoa. When this game really like flows properly, like wow, you can see why this is such a beloved series, right? And it's worth it to have that experience. And yeah, I mean, as much as I like the support characters, like they're cool, but like having 3 other tangible people is like such a unique experience. Like I feel like Dragon's Dogma could have benefited from that in a way that like the series could never do, right? But
yeah. So I mean, I'm going to continue playing it. I really hope that by the time we're recording our next episode, I'll have a lot more thoughts and opinions on this game. But for right now, I'm at least enjoying it, which is something that I didn't know I would be saying about this game, to be totally honest.
And that's the thing, right? Like like I said, it comes down to the fact like it's been streamlined in a way that it will call to a lot of people who are always on the fence. Like this is definitely the best entry to get into. I mean, if this is what you feel is going to scratch your itch, Monster Hunter Rise is a good alternative to the next best game to play. Anything after World or before World is probably where I would say don't go, because it gets really, really technical. There's a lot more technical stuff there. It's like, no, don't bother.
Right. I did hear, like, I've been watching, TikToks and YouTube videos and everything, and a lot of people said that for people who, are interested in the series, like there is a huge learning curve if you were to go from Wilds and then go backwards to Worlds. Like it is night and day. Like you are dealing with like a very robust difference. So again, even though I'm having fun with Wilds and I can see myself at least rolling credits on it, I don't know if this game is going to be what sells me on Monster Hunter as an IP and a franchise that I kind of chase down. I'll be interested to see what they do next, but I don't know if I'm interested to explore the back catalog.
I mean, if you were to explore any game, like I said, do Rise. Rise is like the sweet spot, because it's where I feel the series deviates just enough to welcome newcomers, and then they really went full throttle on Wild. So I think it's even on part of PlayStation Plus, like it was at one point, and a lot of people grabbed it from there. But like it's worth checking out at least once.
Great, yeah, maybe, but who knows?
Maybe.
Bobby, any other thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, everything is coming together well for March. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff in the works. We have a lot of cool games to play and talk about this month, and then it just keeps going till basically the end of the summer. I feel like we've got a lot of content this next 6 months, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what we have up our sleeves, because like I mean, we got opportunities all the time now, so I'm just trying to see what we're gonna land on next. But I mean,
of course,
thanks to everyone for I guess the reception on our Avowed stuff, because like I mean I was just browsing a couple websites once, and like there's a lot of references to your interview with Carrie, and I was like, whoa, it's cool seeing that, because like people are talking about how, like we said, that correlation between Avowed and Annihilation, like that blew up for us. I was like, that's cool. So I'm glad to see people are listening and watching and rating, and I see comments. Like I'm just thankful for all that. So yeah, stick around. Like it's cool. It's cool being recognized for the work we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bobby, if people wanted to find your review on Split Fiction, find more on the website, find more on you, where can they do so?
Yeah, you can find all our reviews, consolecreatures.com. We have Monster Hunter Wilds on there. We gave it a 10. Split Fiction, we're giving a 9. Bluesky, Instagram, YouTube. Pick your social feed. We're there. Pick one and throw a dart. We're there.
Amazing. And you can find me across the internet at Asvikvari. And we'll be back very, very soon with more thoughts on video games and everything else that's coming out. But until then, we appreciate you for tuning in. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.